This is Rick Bowen with Underwater Explorer, and we're right in the middle of the Bahamas in the aftermath of Hurricane George. As you can see, the seas are completely wild. The winds are about 60 miles an hour, and you never want to get too close to the water during a hurricane. I'd hate to be in a real hurricane with 120 mile an hour winds. These were about half that. Up, too close to the water. A lesson for next time. We're going to be diving the fabulous Palm Beaches, some of the best diving in the United States. The water visibility is anywhere from 60 to 100 feet. We're in about 90 feet of water right now. We're diving an old wreck that's been down for about 25 years. It's got quite a lot of fish life on it. Mr. Barracuda patrolling his area. There are tons of fish on this wreck, mainly because it's been down so long. The wreck has to be down at least several years to attract a lot of fish. This wreck is safe to explore. All the windows have been taken out, or the oil. Quite a current on this particular dive, but it just pulls you along. It's called drift diving. It's virtually effortless. You just hang in the current and the current takes you. It's fun to go through a wreck like this because the various rooms seem kind of eerie. This diver's looking for lobster. Notice the lobster hook he's got. Makes it a little easier to catch. Thousands of fish on this particular wreck site. When you swim a wreck, you want to look under all the pilings and all the wreckage because that's where most of the fish life is. Now you can really see the current moving. This is a diver with a rebreather. It's one of the new models that doesn't show any bubbles. Although we didn't get one on this try, he did get a huge lobster that we're going to see later on. Small turtle on the reef. Just realized somebody wants to look at him. In Palm Beach diving, you almost see a turtle on every dive. They love the currents. The Gulf Stream runs closer to Palm Beach than any other place in the United States. It's just about a quarter of a mile offshore. This is a nurse shark that the diver's trying to get out of the cave. That's pretty risky business because although they are not aggressive, they are aggressive when they're bothered. We're topside, having completed our first dive of the day. This is coming back into the inlet that runs out from Palm Beach and Singer Island. That's the tip of the inlet. Years ago, they used to fish for sharks here, and they've been caught up to 8 to 10 feet. This is coming in the actual inlet itself, which is about 30 feet deep and also good for diving on high tide. You want to dive about 1 hour to an hour and a half before peak high tide, and the visibility here underwater is almost 40 feet or more. Some of the bigger boats in the yacht basin. We've completed our dive and are offboarding. This is our second dive of the day, a grouper. That's an angelfish, French angelfish. Those are sheep's head. The reef is just literally teeming with life. trying to get a little shut-eye until we woke him up. This is a moray eel right in the middle of your screen. We're going to see more of him later on. This is another reef dive with more sheep's head. The current is again picking up, making it just effortless to dive. You simply enjoy the currents. That's a queen angelfish, one of the most beautiful fish in the sea. Almost looks like he's got a head on the front and a head on the back. Easy for camouflage. Well, the lobster hunter was successful. He got quite a large one. He will have a fine dinner this evening. They're a whole lot harder to catch than you think. Hunting lobster requires patience and perseverance. It takes a lot of practice to be able to catch them. That's a sponge. Little starfish in his hand that you can see in the middle of your screen. Another pair of turtles. You can barely see the one on your left. These are small baby turtles, really. The large ones can get up to over 500 pounds. They're very curious. The best thing about the reefs off Palm Beach is there's so much fish life, more so than just about anywhere in the Caribbean. Lobsters like to maintain a den where they can escape quickly. This is another French angelfish. It's fun to swim through these schools of fish because they just part and let you through. Palm Beach diving is also noted for dependable visibility usually. Anywhere from 60 to 100 feet. Another barracuda checking us out. This is a tube sponge. Now we get a better look at the moray eel. He was about 6 to 7 feet long, quite large. They're not very intelligent, and you want to keep your distance unless you're a trained dive master. They can be trained to feed, but it takes several years for them to be taught that behavior. All kinds of nooks and crannies. This is a statue on the end of Breaker's Reef, signifying the end of that particular section of reef. Again, a queen angelfish. This is in the inlet that I was telling you about, and it's only in about 15 feet of water. The best time to dive the inlet or the intercoastal is about an hour to an hour and a half before peak high tide. If you dive low tide, the visibility is about 0. Many sheep's head on this area. These are pilings from the docks up above, about 15 feet above us is where most of the boats are docked. But if you'll notice, there is coral down here, even though it's shallow depths, and smaller fish, but still multicolored. These always swim in pairs. Beautiful starfish. He was in only about 5 or 6 feet of water. And this is right on top of where we dived. These boats are for rent and could be taken in the intercoastal only. This is the Sailfish Marina, one of the most beautiful marinas in Singer Island. The island in the background is called Peanut Island, and that's where President John Kennedy had a bomb shelter that we're going to see in a few minutes. This is a water taxi that takes you to the island, and it also tours the various Palm Beach mansions which are close by. We're approaching Peanut Island, and we're going to see first the Coast Guard station that used to be there.
They had a block and tackle system in here. The men would physically push the boats out, about 6 of them on either side of it. They had someone inside the boat, and then they had the block and tackle system, and then they launch out into the inlet and away they would go. Now that was removed in the late 50s, I believe 58 or 59 to be exact. John started the Ocean Learning Institute in 1974, which evolved into the Palm Beach Maritime Museum in 86. He's always been very active and the story of the bell is as follows, that this bell was physically... I go with the one in the middle. I think that's the safest. I don't know if their variance is high tide, low tide, erosion, addition, what the reasoning are, but it's 1.2 miles all the way around. If you go outside of this gate, the county is now doing a walk path around the entire perimeter of the island for their Parks and Recreation Department. We've stopped along the fence line here, folks. This fence has actually been here since the construction of the bunker in December of 1961. You'll notice the sign says Keep Out Magazine Area, U.S. Government Property. Had any one of you come over here or anyone else come over here after the bunker was constructed, this fence was surrounding it, and these signs have been on there since. That's why they look so decrepit today. We chose not to restore them to give them a fresh look, because this leaves the authenticity of what you're about to go into. Being that it was built in total secrecy at the time during the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis, this had to be a very tight-lipped project. Had you stumbled upon this, you would have read this and most likely believed that this was an ammunition storage area for the U.S. government. If you didn't believe it and you pursued it further and tried to go in, you would have been told by someone what it was and escorted out of the property. So, now you notice the fresh landscaping leading around the bunker. Again, when this was built in 1961, being done in total secrecy, the landscaping that you see here was not this way. This was actually completed on January 6th of this year, and we opened the following morning on January the 7th. So all this is fresh. Originally, when the bunker was built, it was housed with a lot of foliage and a lot of vines and a lot of trees, and it was very secluded. To this day, if you come up on a small personal craft out there in the inlet, it's still very hard to see.
Now we're getting ready to go in President Kennedy's bomb shelter. It's like going into a submarine almost because of the doorway. This was built in 1961 and took several men about 12 hours to do. They tried to do it as quickly as possible. This is the main room of the bunker. Lockers and bunk beds. Really very sparse. But we were right in the middle of the Cuban crisis, and they were worried about President Kennedy visiting his parents' home that's only a few blocks away from this area. That's the reason they built the bomb shelter. This is looking at the escape hatch. That's the generator. And again, looking straight up, that goes up about 15 feet so the president could escape if necessary. We're coming back into the beautiful sailfish marina, which is on Singer Island near Palm Beach, Florida. Some trophy fish that were taken in these waters. Some of the best fishing in America. This is a little park right in the middle of the island, which is kind of a nature walk that you want to do if you come to the island. It features one of the finest restaurants in the area, especially known for, of course, seafood. Pelican Pete on his perch, waiting for a handout when the fishermen get back. These are horse-eyed jacks, and I'm looking down on a top shot right into the water. Pelican's waiting for dinner. He knows it's coming shortly. Again, some of the game fish that are caught off Palm Beach. Sailfish Marina sits right on the intercoastal. This is a 360-pound shark that was caught right off Singer Island. This is a festival that they do every Thursday evening to celebrate the sunset. Arts and crafts are available. Quite a special event. Forms of shells and anything to do with the sea is featured. This little dog on the left of your screen chased these fish and barked for about an hour and a half. Never did jump in though. Might not come back. This is the top side part of the festival. Almost dinner time. This is again the water taxi going to tour some of the Palm Beach mansions. One of these homes is owned by Celine Dion. The singer bought it for her mother recently. This is a Palm Beach hotel converted into condominiums. This is again in the intercoastal. These are buildings on the West Palm Beach side, direct opposite Palm Beach. One of the bigger mansions in the area. Some of these yachts sell for $4 to $5 million a piece. This is one of the $5 million yachts that were in the area. That's not far behind it. We've come to the end of our ride on the taxi. Going for an inlet dive, and this is the barracuda that's just been caught. Some of the locals eat barracuda. However, the large ones can be poisonous to you, so it's safest to avoid them if they're over 3 feet. They produce a neurological effect that some of these poisonous barracuda, anything that tastes hot is actually cold, and what tastes cold is actually hot. Can last for up to several months. This is again the inlet in about 15 feet of water. The water is not as clear today, but but normally the visibility average is at least 30 or 40 feet. And all the fish are smaller, the colors are still there. This unusual critter simply just walked away. These bottom dwellers, it's always good not to touch them, especially if you don't know what a fish is. What an odd way of swimming. We're back on shore at the beautiful sailfish marina. This is one of the finest places to stay if you are on Singer Island. One of the best things about this inlet area is that the seas themselves are too rough to dive. An inlet dive can really be fun. We're getting ready for another dive off the Palm Beach area. This time we're in about 60 feet of water. There's a fairly good current. It usually goes about a knot or two an hour, like a slow walk to a brisk walk. And again, the diving, as you can see, is just effortless. You simply just be carried by the current. That's our line man, who you always want to stay near because he has the float, which is what the boat follows to know where the divers are at all times. The fish here are so plentiful, here in the Florida Keys more so than just about anywhere in the Caribbean. The sea life is so prolific here. Seems like every little nook and cranny is filled with something. Everybody's hunting. The divers try to group together reasonably to follow the line man. You don't want to get too far away from him because if you surface and you're not with a group, the boat has to spend some time finding you. And in a sea of 2 to 4 feet on top, it's really hard to do so sometimes. Soft sea fans waving in the current. And as you can tell, the prime attraction to Palm Beach diving is the fish life. That's a puffer fish. When he's threatened, he'll blow himself up with water. Another prime candidate for the lobster hunter. And a queen angel. This is a fairly large ray, which are common in the area. The reef is high profile. It rises anywhere from 3 to 6 feet off the sand. You want to swim parallel to the reef to see the most fish life. This diver carries a light, and it's best to do so even in daylight because a lot of the sea life is under the ledges that you can spot with a light. This is a trumpet fish. You see one or more on every dive. The soft corals and the colors are fantastic on Breakers Reef. It's called Breakers Reef because it's right in front of the Breakers Hotel, one of the most famous in the area. This is a sucker fish that just almost had to get on my aqualung. They usually ride sharks, but that one apparently didn't have a ride and was looking for one. He stayed around several divers trying to get on. This is a school of sheep's head. They're fairly common in the area. We're going to be diving Ginnie Springs today. It's the world's most popular freshwater dive. Really incredible. Ginnie Springs is located near a small town called High Springs in the upper middle part of the state of Florida. The visibility here is over 300 feet plus. That water is cleaner and purer than the water we drink. The spring teems with fish who love to be fed. This is known as a tech diver, short for technical diver. They have double tanks so they can stay in the cave system longer. They're making an entrance into the cavern now. And the flow of water that comes out of this is just tremendous. The cavern starts in about 20 feet of water, and we're going down to a depth of about 50-55 feet. This is down on the bottom of the cavern itself, and lights are needed, but if you don't have one, you can usually follow somebody that does, or they are available for rental. This is the main cavern in Ginnie Springs. There are 5 or 6 different springs that are regarded in the Ginnie Springs resort system. This is a grid that they put up so divers could not penetrate any farther, because in the older days when diving instruction was not followed that carefully, divers could get in trouble, so they want them just to stay in this one area and not to go any deeper. I'm with Rhonda, one of the owners of Ginnie Springs Resort, probably the world's #1 freshwater dive site. Rhonda, why do you think that is?
Well, we have visibility forever, as stated by Jacques Cousteau years ago. We have no winds, no waves. Visibility is always good.
If you're a diver and you're anywhere near Florida, you have got to dive Ginnie Springs. Most fabulous freshwater dive in the world. The clearest visibility. The water's about 72 degrees year-round. Notice the bubbles coming up through the cavern system after the divers have exited. This is one of the hotels in the Palm Beach area. It's right on the ocean. It's a known divers hotel called the Rutledge Inn. I'd highly recommend it to all Palm Beach divers. These are lastly more of the Palm Beach mansions. This is Rick Bowen with Underwater Explorer. I've enjoyed being with you, and I'll see you next time.